Hey there, this is Perch, and we've got a great topic suggestion about Wizard Magazine. So, Wizard Magazine and this is where I'm going off memory, not off of anything better. I think Wizard Magazine was '91. I want to say it was right at the start of the '90s, started to be published, and the idea was that it was a news magazine, for lack of a better word, that was going to try and do a very high, serious, good take on comics. It was going to feature interviews. It was going to feature some pricing guide. It was going to, hot creators, news stories that were coming up. And it was clever in that, well, first off, it benefited from being kind of there during the 90s. So I think it definitely became a vehicle that helped fuel image and a lot of that kind of revolution. I think that Wizard Magazine, I think that the image guys owe a lot to Wizard Magazine, and I think they often don't get the acclaim, the support, the credit that the magazine deserves for promoting the artist, promoting the work, and having a vehicle of promotion and marketing that didn't happen previously. I mean, it was basically you had Marvel, you had DC, and then beyond that, it was kind of a struggle. There was a lot of different comic book news and newsletters, and there's a lot of different things. I can't believe I often forget the name of it because it was such a generic name, but old comic book newsletter kind of made famous by having a Peter David article column in it way back in the day. But anyway, there were other news stars, but Wizard came out. They went for flashy. They went for substance. They were going to be a magazine that was going to feel like an impressive thing to collect, and it was pretty common during times in the 90s that Wizard outsold a lot of comics. And then they would also have specialized covers, and they did a couple gimmick things from time to time. They had cards and other parts to Wizard, but it definitely was a comic lovers magazine, and it felt like that, and it was, I think, really important to the industry. It was, I think, I'm stammering all over the place. I think that a lot of indie and up and coming comics and things that people normally wouldn't have seen got a boost from Wizard. It served a really valuable part to the community. So for those of you who may not know what this is, you can go online. You can see lots of pictures of it. But it was as I've been describing, it was a magazine that had interviews with creators. It had news stories about upcoming storylines and things to expect. It did a great job, I think, of trying to get some inside scoop. So it wasn't instantly dated. And one of the problems that a lot of the news things had is that, a storyline would be written for comics, and then they would talk to, they'd leak some articles about it, and then that would go into a magazine, and that would get published. By the time it was published, though, the event or whatever the storyline was usually halfway through. So it didn't feel like breaking news. It always felt very dated, very behind. Had some art tips, had a bunch of things to it. It was about comics for comics. Talked about some of the media attempts at the time. It's kind of funny in hindsight to read some articles speculating on, hey, here comes the new Blade. This is the best superhero movie you've ever had. I mean, it's an interesting moment in time that this magazine provided, and I think served a really important part to comics as a business and as a community. What's curious, I'd say now, is that if you are trying to become a comic news site, or because the idea of publishing a magazine zine about comics today probably doesn't make a lot of financial sense. Although I would still argue if you put one out with the quality of Wizard right now, it would probably sell better than certainly better in the bottom 25% of comics if it was available and provided value. But really, its next evolution should be a website, should be a internet place for this news to be done. And I think that it's a template for how to do it right. It's an absolute. I mean, if you are trying to figure out, boy, how do I do comic news and be successful? Just literally pick up Wizard, grab yourself a couple old copies, start writing pages in your website. Have the same sections. Reach out to creators who will be more than happy to give you the level interviews that Wizard got. People are desperate for some promotion, and there will be people who will talk to you. And the thing about Wizard is, I mean, when Wizard had opinions, certainly, but the magazine was not the kind of snarky, biased nonsense that you see today from a lot of news sites. You would not see a lot of the headlines, certainly from CBR and Bleeding Cool, feel like they're trolling. The whole point of the article is to troll someone else. It feels like somebody who's got a couple hundred followers on Twitter has written an article really designed to poke at somebody they were arguing about on Twitter as opposed to actual comic news. And I mean, it's not like that. It is that. And Wizard kept the petty kind of nonsense fights out of it, and as a result, became a trusted source for a lot of fans to immerse themselves in comics. And yada yada yada. It was very successful for a long period of time, and then unfortunately, I think what happened with Wizard is as the internet was coming, as people were wanting to consume their information a little bit quicker through sources like that, then people started turning more toward online sources, and Wizard suffered as a result. But that's that. The Wizard was a very interesting magazine, something where the content and the format and the point of it would absolutely be relevant today, and somebody should absolutely try and mimic it right now. Not as print, but as a website. That is the model for how to build a comic news site today. Is Wizard. Um, it's kind of curious. I mean, the brand of Wizard, and there's a bunch of history there toward the tail end. Be honest with you, I'm not completely clear about some of the things that went on there, but there was some fallout there toward the end. But the actual brand and the style and everything else it's a template. It's a blueprint for how to be successful as a news site. Don't get into the petty squabbles. Don't get into the editorializing. Provide basic value of here are comics, here's stuff coming out, here's a regular interview, here's no nonsense. If you want your nonsense, there's other places to get your nonsense. Here's how to do comic news. I honestly, if I had even an extra 2 hours in the day, I would take a run at this and try and replicate that. And I guarantee you, anyone with some even lightweight design skills and ability to pull a website together and get a staff that wasn't going to go out and be weird little maniacs on social media, um, you could have a successful news site in a matter of weeks. It would be very easy to do. But anyway, that's Wizard Magazine. I think I was a big fan of it then. I'm a big fan of it now. I think that there's a lot to learn from what it gave us and what it gave the industry. And I think a lot of people remember it fondly, but it's more than that. I think there's a lot of credit that needs to go to Wizard for being a real core part of comics that helped a lot of comics be what they are. I mean, yeah, I think the image guys in a lot of ways owed them a royalty. They they really helped that whole evolution take place. Anyway, now I'm going to go on to Wikipedia and see if I got the date wrong, and see how good my memory. Hey, how about that? Some time has passed, but not for you. And I was right. It was 1991, July 91 when this thing got started. So awesome. I'm not losing my mind just yet. And in looking that up, the final issue, the cover was kind of talking about Ryan Reynolds as top space cop Green Lantern, the movie that's going to come out and redefine Green Lantern. So that's like, oh, what a sad note to end on. And so accurate. I mean, that's right in the zone. There's that earlier video we talked about, right in the zone of, something that probably should have worked, absolutely did not. The print turning into digital, and just those are the factors as they rolled out. But anyway, there you go. That's Wizard Magazine. So hope you like this. Thank you for listening. Hit the button to subscribe, notify, bells and whistles and all kinds of crazy tools that Google will help you out to find your way back to this channel. Thanks so much for listening.